Welcome to Sex on the Floor podcast. This podcast was created to help educate the public about problems with sex and intimacy and how this is tied to both physical and mental aspects. Hosted by myself, Dr. Molly Hart, a passionate pelvic floor physical therapist and owner of Pelvic Balance Physical Therapy, and by Dr. Katie Schubert, a phenomenal sex therapist and owner of Cypress Wellness Center. We are here to have a good time. We're here to keep it real with you all and to educate along the way. I'm so excited for you to join us. We strive to help many relationships prosper in fun, safe, and healthy intimacy. While listening to the show, please remember that this information is not meant to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. Please speak with your medical provider for all things related to your healthcare. Hello, all. Welcome back to Sex on the Floor podcast. This is Dr. Molly Hart, and I've got Dr. Katie Schubert here with us. And so today we are going to be focusing on sex toys. So last episode, we went over the clitoris, and we wanted to do that because there is a lot of misinformation about the clitoris and female pleasure and sexuality. It doesn't really get prioritized and focused on enough just with the cultural dynamics that we have. And so that's what Katie and I are really trying to educate females about, is how do you please yourself? How do you learn how to understand your body better? So that way with your partner, you first have to learn how to do it yourself, but then you can teach your partner properly of like, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and so on. So this is our extenuation from that, is going over sex toys today.
Yes. And I think that a few other points of importance here is that we did mention in the last episode that a lot of times women have a hard time achieving orgasm with penetrative sex. A lot of women find that using sex toys when they're having penetrative sex with their partners adds a lot more pleasure, and they can achieve orgasm with the use of sex toys during, P&V. So it's another great tool for you and your partner if you're comfortable exploring these things. So Molly and I are going to talk about different kinds of vibrators or suction tools that you can use with yourself or with your partner that might aid in the pleasure that you have during penetrative sex.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring up some websites that have sex toys on them. And so if you're watching this via YouTube, you can kind of go along with us. For those listening, we're just going to verbally describe what type of sex toy we're talking about and different ways in which it can be utilized. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now.
And I think it's also important for us to say that we are not associated with these websites at all. We just did a quick search before we hopped on and started recording for websites that might be helpful for you guys. So we haven't gone through these link by link to make sure that they're wonderful, but looking at them very briefly, they look fine.
Yeah, I popped up a few on here and I can go over them with you guys. So this one is Boutique Valessa. There's one that I found on here. Can I move this far? I'm on Zoom right now. There we go. There's one that's called Lelo, L-E-L-O, that looks really, I think, nice, and just presentation. Depends on what you are, overall looking for. What you will find, just so you guys know, is there's a huge price variation between sex toys depending on what website you go on. So we're going to go over different ideas, like the different designs and stuff, but feel free to shop around. I'm also a huge fan in general with everything that I buy online of putting it into the Google app, and then it'll find the exact thing that you're looking at. So like, let's say you like a chair, this is totally different, but if you like a chair, you can put it in there and it'll show you all the different websites that have that. So you can do that as well with ones that you like and price it, see if there's ones that have more discreet packaging you like, if that's something that's uncomfortable for you. But here's a few different ones. Here's Sex Toys at Good Vibrations. That looks like a fun little website as well. So we'll go to this one right now. And we'll start here. Katie, do you want to talk about first? Do you want to start on one type of sex toy specifically right now?
Sure. So I think what I recommend so I see a lot of couples in my office. And when I ask them if they are interested in incorporating sex toys into their love life, they often seem very confused because they don't understand how a vibrator can be used during penetrative sex. There are these really small vibrators called, I think they're called like bullet
Yep,
vibrators.
bullets. Yep.
They can be used during penetrative sex very easily. So, Molly, is there a way for you to search that in this
Yeah, I'm gonna
website?
see if I can find a bullet. I know because these. Let's just go to vibrators right here. One rabbit. No, it's gonna
Not
be.
the one, not the rabbit. So I think that a lot of, especially women who are starting off with sex toys and don't know a lot about them, but the bullet vibrators, they're very small, and they're not super intimidating. And during penetrative sex, you can put the bullet
Here we
part of
go.
the
So here's one on here's bullet vibrators. So I'm going for her. We're going to click on these. So here they are. They're like nice and little if you're looking. So bullet vibrator looks like a thing of lipstick. Like for these right here, it's super uber small.
yes, and you can put it right on the clitoris while you're having penetrative sex. So a lot of people find that it works very well. It doesn't get in the way. It's not super distracting.
Yeah, so these little bullets, they make some that are connected to the actual remote. I really don't recommend those. I feel like they kind of get in the way and are annoying. Maybe for like just self-pleasure, that's fine. I do recommend that you get ones that have batteries or are rechargeable so you can move it around and it's not in the way. And like Katie was saying, they're so little that you can do clitoral stimulation while you're having sex. Of course, it does depend on what position you're in. So you're gonna find that positions in which you have access to your clitoral tissues, it's easier. So regular missionary position, it is a little bit harder. Think about like doggy style. That's going to be much easier to be able to use a vibrator. Why these are nice is because they are so little, so you can use them in lots of different types of positioning, and it's fun to explore with your partner what ones work best. So front to back type positions though are going to be your more easy ones, meaning like your partner is on your backside, but not always the case. I don't know if you have any positions you like to recommend, Katie.
No, I think just what you just said. If they have access to the clitoris, easy access where like he or whoever isn't pushed up against like her pubic bone.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So those are bullets, and those are great too for self pleasure as well. Um, I do as a pelvic floor BT, I will say one stipulation as we go through vibrators, and just sex toys in general. I now I don't mind bullets at all, but they're very, very basic, and that's okay. But sometimes they only have one vibration setting. Sometimes they have multiple, which is great. So it'll be like you can do really light, medium, high, maybe extreme, like vibration intensity. Sometimes they'll do patterns. Patterns feel really, really good on the clitoral tissues. The clitoris wants constant stimulation, but it does like a variety of that constant stimulation. So you don't want to just like necessarily just keep the one stimulation one spot the entire time. Also, just even from like a nerve perspective, it can make it more difficult for that clitoral tissue to hit that like action potential is what I call it, the actual buildup of the orgasm. But with these bullets and some of the other ones we'll go over, is it is a lot of vibration on directly on the clitoris. And so when I'm dealing with women who have clitoral sensitivity issues, and or pain, I do not recommend these because it is very aggressive to have that vibration directly on the clitoral tissues. And so we'll talk about some other sex toys that I really like to recommend specifically for somebody who has a little bit more sensitivity in that area.
so before you do that, the other sex toy that I recommend a lot for couples beginning to explore this are cock rings that have the vibrator attached to them.
Yes.
I'm not.
So I'm going to go to couples right here on this website. Sex toys for couples will probably be in there. Wearable vibrators.
And the cool thing about vibrating
Yeah,
cock rings,
like this.
you can pick one up at Target. I saw Target had them the other day.
No.
Yes, they sure do. I'm sure that they're not super great quality and maybe last for one or two times, but they have them and they're cheap. If you want to just pick one up there to see if you like them, then you can invest in one of these that are a little bit more expensive.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, so those will go on the base of a male's penis, and then every time they're moving, it's hitting up against your clitoral tissues, which is fun. The only thing I don't like about that is, again, it's not going to be consistent always, the stimulation you're getting from it, and it can kind of move around. So it definitely does feel fun, and it does increase pleasure. I don't know that it's as easy to achieve an orgasm with a penis ring. I don't know if you would agree with that, Katie.
Yeah, I would. With the exception of if she's on top and he's laying down, then she can control where it's hitting on the clitoris and to what intensity. Um,
Yes.
Men also say that they really enjoy the sensation of their penises vibrating.
Yes. Yep. So it's kind of just a fun, I think it's a fun toy to use together. Do we want
Definitely.
to get into these? I love talking about these types of vibrators as well. Do we want to talk about that while we're on this page?
You want to? Sure, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's other types of vibrators. Again, every website you go to, you're going to see different names for them. So, feel free to check out different platforms, see what company you want to buy it from. But there are also vibrators that go both inside the vagina and on the clitoris. And so you'll see if you're looking at this, it's like a C shape. I don't know what else. It is a C shape. Is there a better way to describe that, Katie?
Perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, but like kind of like a closed C shape. And so what's really awesome about this, what I love about this is you're stimulating both and like the front side and the back side of those clitoral tissues. So when we think about the clitoris in the past episodes, I've showed you how big the clitoris is. And I wish right now actually I had it up because I would show it again. But the clitoral tissues, people think about the G spot. That's really just the back side of the clitoral tissues. So again, if we reference back to our last episode where we showed a lot of photos of this C-shaped one goes inside the vagina and it's stimulating the back side, and then the front side is stimulating the top side of that clitoral tissue. And then the penis, actually, you can use it alone, but you can also use it with sex. I have patients and even friends who love these, like swear by these. I will tell you personally, I do not like them. I think that they move around a lot. I think that they're sometimes hard to get it directly like where you want it on the clitoral tissues. It's interesting to have that inside of your vagina with the penis, but again, it's just something to try with your partner that you can use during intercourse. I don't know if you have anything that you want to share on that as well, Katie.
I don't. I mean, it's the thing about sex toys is that they're so specific, right? You need to find the one that works well for your anatomy. And you can read article after article, but we're all built so differently, and our clitorises are also different that you're probably going to spend a bit of money exploring the options.
I think that's if you're open to doing that, like if intimacy is really something that's super important to you, and this is something that you're wanting to work on in your relationship and explore more, and you have the budget for it, I mean, I would say go on and buy a plethora of different fun sex toys and sex it doesn't even have to be a vibrator, but just sex toys in general, and try them out and see. The more variety you have, the more fun you can have with your partner and even with yourself of figuring out what you do and don't like. And they all are going to feel totally different. They're different experiences. I will say for these, even you can see some of these have a little remote, some of them don't. Sometimes you'll find some that are battery charged, some are they have a rechargeable battery in them. Um, do you have a preference on that, or do you ever say anything about that to your clients about the batteries?
No, I don't mention it. I mean, I think
Okay.
that the price point reflects what's going on with the batteries, right? So like the
Yeah.
rechargeable be more expensive.
Yeah. I will say something that is, if you're going to use your vibrator all the time, get a rechargeable battery, because then just like you use your phone all the time, like it's no big deal to plug it in. If you're somebody who's going to be kind of infrequent with this, I mean, I would try to find some that use batteries. And the only reason why I say that is because then you're going to go use it and it's going to be dead. And it's really frustrating because it takes a while for them to charge. So that can be very annoying. Another thing I don't love about the rechargeable is as the battery is dying, typically the intensity of vibration also starts to change. So it can fluctuate like what type of experience you're having with it. So if you want more of a consistent and I know it's going to work experience, I would look for the ones that are battery versus the rechargeable batteries. Okay.
So those
Yeah.
those are the vibrators. Those are the vibrating toys. There are a few other categories of sex toys. I know that Molly, you have the one that you suggest a lot to your clients.
Yeah. So let's go over those. So this is kind of a view all. Let's go to the clitoral vibrators right here. So I'm on clitoral vibrators on this website. So ones that I really like now, after really just kind of understanding the clitoral nerves more in depthly, is ones like this. This one's called the Two Crews. But if I click on this, let me click on it. There's a lot of different variations of this one. Oh, is it going to show me a picture or not? Let's see here. So you see, if you're looking at this, it's got like a little opening. So instead of it being this direct vibration on the clitoral tissues, it's got, think about like a little donut, and then your clitoris, it goes inside of the hole of the donut. And so this is sometimes it is vibrating on the outside of the device. Sometimes it actually is pulsating air. So it's got like, think about like a drum, and it's like going pop, 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 pop. And that creates a vibration in and of itself. What I love about those is it's not direct vibration directly on the clitoral tissues. So for my women who are dealing with an insane amount of sensitivity or pain, sometimes I also use vibrators to enhance what I call tissue tolerance is what I call this. This is for everything in the body, but we're trying to enhance how much that tissue, the nervous system can handle as far as like pressure and different stimuli. So sometimes I have a vibrator in their plan of care to enhance that because their clitoral tissues are too sensitive. And it's not like they're so sensitive that they're orgasming all the time, even though that is a thing. Typically it's because they're having discomfort and so forth. So this is nice because it's not direct on there, and you can, I also think they feel phenomenal as well. And if you talk to a lot of women, a lot of my patients, a lot of my friends, even if I talk about different toys, I would say this is kind of a fan favorite. So this is my go-to. I don't know if you have any go-tos that you recommend to clients, Katie, besides the bullet.
I mean, usually I'm working with couples, and the bullet makes more sense when it's partnered sex. But that one I've heard a lot of women love. That one, and then the rose. I think the rose is fairly similar.
Yeah, and like you can see this one over here is called the cruise again. Like any of them where your clitoral tissues are not, there's not this direct contact, essentially. You'll see there's a ton of different ones out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, on this page, this is nice because you can kind of see all the different ones on here. Here's a clitoral vibrator. That's interesting. Um, okay, so there's those. This one right here, this Enigma Cruise, I mean, this looks like it's going inside the vagina and the clitoral. So again, you're getting front and back side, which I think is wonderful. This would be a little bit harder to use with intercourse though, because this is quite a big handle here. You could do it if you were in maybe doggy position. But this would be a little bit more, these bigger ones that you're seeing are going to be a little bit more for individual self-pleasure.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is like if you're coming and looking for sex toys and it's maybe your first time exploring it, like don't get carried away with all these options. Like this, looking at this page and not knowing a whole lot about sex toys, I would imagine would be fairly intimidating. You wouldn't know where half of this stuff would go on your body or do on your body. Which is why the bullet's nice, which is why the cock ring's nice. They're very simple. You know where they're gonna go, you know what they're gonna do. And then once you have some experience with more of the simple sex toys, and you know what your body likes, then maybe start researching more of these larger toys.
Yeah. And I would say, like, if you're gonna get just two basic ones, like I would get one like this that I just talked about, where it's like the donut shaped one, and the bullet. Those would be two start point ones I would have you all use. One other caveat to, not caveat, but thing to I want to add to this is make sure you're using some form of lubricant. The lubricant can be your saliva. I mean, if you're going to be that basic, but there has to be lubricant. If you're self-lubricated already down there in the vaginal tissues, take that tissue, take that mucus and put it up on the clitoral tissues. If you have coconut oil nearby, for us, we sell something called revagination that I absolutely just love. We also have something called slippery stuff, but you really want to have lubricant on your clitoral tissues when you're doing this. If it gets a little bit dry, it can actually irritate the nerves a little bit more. And then when you're using a bullet and you're using like this cruise here, we're talking about the little donut shaped one, move it around. Like we've talked about this in past episodes, but you don't want to just keep it just on the main area that we think of as the clitoris, which is that little bulb. Remember, it has a shaft, so go up. You can even move that skin, the shaft skin, top, that little hood. You can move that up. You can expose the clitoral tissues of the shaft. That's super sensitive as well. So move it around. What does it feel like when it's directly on top? What does it feel like when you move it to the side of the clitoral tissues? What about the right side versus the left side? You will notice there is a difference from right side to left side for almost all of us. The way that the nerves innervate and the blood flow is different. So the sensation's a little bit different. So just for these basic ones is experiment with your body and what you like, and make sure you're kind of moving and playing around with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to
I think
the rabbit. What
well,
were you saying?
I don't know if we've talked about this yet. But lubricants I think is really important to consider, during sex and then with sex toys, obviously. But there are three main kinds, right? Water-based, silicone, and oil.
Yes, yeah.
And obviously you don't want to use oil-based lubricants if you're using a condom, because the oil can break down the latex. Water-based dries out fairly quickly. Silicone-based and oil-based can get pretty slippery. There are pros and cons of both, but do your research, and also explore the different kinds, because your body might like one over the other.
Yeah. Yeah, so my revagination's an oil-based one. Which and another thing too is some of them you can use with oral and some you can't. So like my revagination, you're not going to use that with oral. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. Um, I do love a water-based, like a good water-based one. So we use Slippery Stuff as our water-based one. I don't have any silicone ones, not that I'm against them. I just don't use them very often. So yeah, make sure you have good lubricants, and make sure you, again, that's something that's so fun to have a different variety of to explore with, because there's different types of water-based, there's different oil ones, there's different silicone ones. And it honestly changes the entire sensory experience depending on what you're using. So,
And also,
yeah, you said that.
you do purchase a sex toy, if it's, expensive or not, read up on it, because you might not be able to use like oil based lubricants with some of these sex toys. So just bottom line, do your research.
Yeah. Other thing too, oh my gosh, this is so important. Women, after you are done using your sex toy, make sure you clean it. Like, make sure you clean it. So what do you clean it with? Water and a very low, like a basic soap that's not going to have a lot of scents and stuff on it. But you have to make sure you're cleaning it and then drying it out and putting it back away. I cannot tell you how many women I work with end up giving themselves yeast infections or BV infections because of their sex toys. And it's not that the sex toy is the problem, it's that it wasn't cleaned properly. So after every single time, I don't care if you just barely used it, like make sure you clean it. I know that sounds so simple, uh, but yeah, just last little.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go over some rabbit vibrators because I'm on that already. What are these G-spot vibrators? What's this? Okay, yeah. So G-spot vibrators is indicating that it's getting the backside of the clitoral tissue, just so we're on the same page of like the word choices that I use. Look at this one, this mono wave. This looks fun. It goes inside and it looks like it pulses up and down, like literally moving. So that would probably be fun if you're getting a little bit more exploratory. I'm going to go to rabbit vibrators. That's a really common thing that you'll hear is the rabbit. What does that mean? That's like, think about like a dildo essentially, and it's got something on the other side that's stimulating the clitoris. This is absolutely for self play, or you could do it partnered, but not while the P is in the V. But vibrators are for somebody who's going to be a little bit more exploratory. I do think the rabbit vibrators are super fun. So you'll see all the different varieties of these vibrators that they have on this page. I like this page. It's nice, or this website, lelo.com. You've got your remote control vibrators, travel sex toys. Let's go there. So these are just going to be like your small bullets, like Katie was talking about. Why they're called travel is just they're small, but oh, look it. There's a small travel, Sona 2 travel, like the little one that I was talking about with the donut shaped. That's wonderful. See, that you could be used with partner play.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to save that one. I haven't seen one of those that was that small. One massager. Let's see here.
The begins.
Yeah. And let's see. we've got all sorts of fun toys on here. So these are smart bead, and then we've got anal beads. I don't really do a lot of education with anal beads, but I'm all about it. I'm like, just explore your body.
Yeah.
Do we want to go over anything with men?
I mean, men don't have as many fun options as women do. If you're if you're watching this, you can see the what they call the fleshlight, right? Or a prostate massager.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then the penis rings. Yep.
yep, the penis rings. Pretty simple. Anal beads.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly not a huge difference between those and a lot of the things that we'll even use as females besides the fleshlight. Okay, sex toys for couples. Let me just go here and just see what they have in here. Because this stuff we already went over, I think. Yep. Okay, so things that I do want to go over. Last thing is going to be sex accessories. Let's go to here. Oh, that's going over lubricant. Those are fun. But okay, here's what I wanted to go over. So some fun stuff for those who are going to be a little bit more exploratory. So this is not, basic 101, is using things like whip. So here's a flogger. Here is some wide handcuffs. Do they have even like a basic? See, this one doesn't have a basic home kit. Some of these websites do. So some of these websites have like really awesome kits you can buy. Here, let's go to bundles and see if it's under there. Oh no. So this website doesn't have it, but just so you all are listening, some of the websites you can get a bundle and it'll be like an eye mask, it'll be handcuffs, it'll be like a little whip, and they might be leather or different colors. They match, they're really cute. That also, I think, is really fun to buy along with whatever sex toys you're going to do for partnered intimacy. Because again, like I've said, I always say, your intimacy with your partner, it's really fun if you view it kind of like a fun playground where you're really trying to figure out what each other likes sensory wise. So when you add all these things in, okay, if I put a blindfold on and I take away your vision, do you like that? Do you not like that? If I take your hands away because I handcuff them up in different positions, do you like that having control and your partner having more control over you? How does it feel when you use a flogger or a whip? And this does not have to be painful. I don't want you guys to think about it in a painful sense, but it's just different sensory experiences that you get to have. So those are other fun things that for my more explorative and I would say higher level as far as like what they're trying to achieve sexually with their partner, that's fun stuff that I like to bring. I ask the women I'm working with, like, hey, are you open to this? And they are, and they love it. It just depends on where you're at in your sexual exploration with your partner. I know, Katie, we've talked about this in the past. I think with you, a lot of women are coming in more on this beginner level of trying to explore sexuality with themselves and their partner, correct?
Yeah. And in that exploration, I say start small. So maybe just do the blindfold and figure out like what that's like, and then have a debriefing afterwards to figure out like what you both felt about it, if you felt safe, if you felt vulnerable, like all the things. But playing with one sensation at a time, not integrating all of the things in the bundle at once.
For the beginning, yeah. Yeah. For some of the women, so I have some women who come in at that level. Mainly those are my women who are having pain with intercourse and have just never even been able to have intercourse in general without it being extremely painful. But I have a lot of moms who come in and they're postpartum and they are like, oh my God, like my clitoris sucks now. It's not sensitive anymore. I can't achieve an orgasm. They're so frustrated. They're like, my husband and I's sex life sucks compared to what it used to be. And they know what it used to be like. So they're kind of after that. And so there's a lot of physical therapy work that has to happen, mainly being Kegels and strengthening that area. But using these different sex toys and different accessories that I just went over is a really fun way for them to start to reconnect again after they have a baby. So that's typically the women that I'm talking to where we're going into more of that type of discussion and sensation and trying to reconnect with the clitoris again. After you have a C-section, and after you have a vaginal birth, your nerves take a huge beating. They really do. And they do take time to rehab. And just like anywhere in the body, I mean, if you hurt your knee, you have to rehab all the areas around the knee, and your sensation around the quad is different. We know after you have a C-section, the sensation around the scar, you have altered sensation to like no sensation. And it takes time for that to come back. And so using these different sensory elements can really, really help those nerves to waken up and become more clear in the messages that they're sending up sensory wise to the brain again. It's so fun. And so I'll also use with them mapping. You have pictures, like an anatomical picture of the body, and there's different grids, and your partner can use different toys or different stimuli on a certain grid, and you have to tell them what grid they're at. So am I at grid 1 or am I at grid 12? Am I using the vibrator or am I using it? Like there's different toys that they can use. And so by doing that though, it's so cool. It's called sensory discrimination. You really fine tune your mapping in the brain of that area. And so it's another way that I help women, a lot of postpartum women, to re-enhance that clitoral sensitivity and how the brain can connect to that area again.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So anything else you want to kind of go over with this stuff?
I don't think so. I think that the bottom line is, speak with your partner, figure out, what your goals are. And maybe just sit down, have a date night where you sit down on one of these websites. It could be any of these websites, and look it over and maybe talk about how you feel about what you're looking at, whether or not it's intimidating, whether or not it's too much, whether or not it's exciting, and pick out a few. You pick out a few, have your partner pick out a few, and then you guys can get the boxes in the mail together and you can explore. But take it slow and do a lot of debriefing, a lot of communication through the process to make sure you're on the same page about how you're feeling.
Yeah. Do you ever recommend people go in person? Like, is there any in person around the St. Pete, Tampa Bay area that you recommend?
I like the websites a lot, and I usually offer it off as a date night. Thursday night, you're going to have a sex toy date where you're going to open up a website. You're going to find a few sex toys that you both like, or 2 that you like and 2 that your partner like, and you read about them, research them. And that's just so hard to do when you're walking into a physical location because you're so overwhelmed. I don't know if I'm sure you have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's over the top.
There's so much. And then there's so much happening around you. And you have so many funny feelings about maybe walking into a sex toy store. So it's just from the comfort of your own home with all this research that we have on all these amazing devices, you can learn everything you need to know about any of the sex toys that you're seeing. And with education and information comes comfort. And I certainly want everybody walking into their experiences with sex toys or sexuality or sexual intimacy with comforts.
Yeah. Yeah. So and also too, for those of you who are Christian and you want to be really sexually intimate with your husband, but trying to stay away from any of the maybe perversion that can come with sex toys and stuff. Yeah, sex toy stores are wild when you walk in, at least the ones that I've been in. So I definitely wouldn't recommend going to a sex toy store because it's overwhelming. Like, yeah, it's a lot going on. So if you can find a website that makes you feel comfortable, doesn't make you feel dirty or wrong. I really do want to say this last part is just like, if you are feeling reserved about this from a religious standpoint, and like that's, I mean, it's super important that you're holding true to your values. But I also just want to say it's also so okay and so very healthy to explore sexuality with your partner that you're married to. Like, that is okay. If we look at it from a biblical standpoint and so forth, like, you're allowed to explore this and just have so much fun sexually with your partner. And so I like to give that permission to you all, so there's not this guilt and shame associated with sex toys.
Holly, are you saying that because you run up against this a lot?
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm not. No, I don't. I'm not a sarcastic person at all.
Oh, yeah, you're not. You told me that. Yeah, a lot of women think that sex toys are bad, like in the Christian culture and stuff. And actually, biblically, if you read scripture, I mean, God wants you to be so exploratory and like and he wants you to just go crazy with your husband, with your wife when it comes to sexuality. Like sex is one of the, to me, like the most incredible blessings that we've been given on this earth. At least from a biblical standpoint, yes, it's supposed to be done with your husband or with your wife. That is true. We're not supposed to be doing this with somebody outside of our marriage. But within a marriage, like go crazy. And giving that permission to some of my Christian women that I've worked with, oh my gosh, their sex lives have just blossomed in such a beautiful way. And they share that with me, and I love it. I love hearing those stories because they would have never done that, I think, prior to coming in and working with me.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's what I'm also going to give permission to all of the people who are unmarried and want to explore with their unmarried partners and with themselves by themselves.
100%. Yeah. I always like to just be respectful for those that are listening that are abiding to a certain like moral ethical standard. Like I don't want you to view this as a bad thing, even in that realm. Yeah.
Good.
I feel like people who are not religious, I'm like, I don't have to give you permission. I'm like, I'm hoping like you're just going out and doing.
But they do.
Maybe we do. Maybe we do.
Yeah, I mean, I get so not just permission, but like the education. I feel like so many people haven't been given the education or the information that they need to know to go out there and explore like their anatomy or their pleasure or their relationship or their partner. So I mean, I don't know, permission, whatever.
Yeah, I know. It's stuff that we have to work on ourselves. And trying to get rid of the shame around sex toys. There's so much shame around it, and it drives me insane because I'm like, last thing, and then we'll wrap up this episode, is also for you women out there listening who have never really explored your clitoris and explored sex toys. That's going to be a whole learning game. Okay. Like don't expect to get a vibrator and just be like, oh, this is great. And boom, you pop off an orgasm. No, that doesn't happen. You have to literally learn how to achieve an orgasm as a woman. And that's where we talked about these toys. We talked about different lubricants, have that, but like start to explore with yourself with this toy and how to even achieve an orgasm. Because I think achieving an orgasm as a woman does require mindfulness. Like you have to be focused and you have to be intentional. So I don't want you all thinking you're just going to go do this and it's going to be so easy and magical and perfect. No, it can take time, and go online and read articles about women describing how an orgasm built up. What you are looking for from like a nerve sensory standpoint is you are looking for things to slowly kind of get more and more sensitive. And eventually get so sensitive. It's such an intense buildup that I want you to think about like it pops off. Then it's like the cap explodes, and then we'll start to get a pulsating of the pelvic floor muscles. You'll feel that happening. When that occurs, once the pop off occurs, it is so sensitive that you might find, oh my God, I can't keep the vibrator on the clitoral tissues, or I need to dial it down to a lower intensity, or maybe I can only do it on top of the labia majora over the clitoral. Like you might have to back off where you're putting it. That's totally normal and fine. And so play around with whatever toys you have. I would say you can do it partner, you could do it by yourself, but start to explore that and seeing if you can even achieve an orgasm in the first place. And be patient with yourself and read as much as you can online to get there.
Love it.
Anything else you want to add or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, we will see you next episode with something fun. And I'm excited to just continue to bring you all more content. If there's anything that you want to hear about from Dr. Kate and I, please email us, message us. We'll be happy to cover that topic. Have a beautiful rest of your day. We are Dr. Molly Hart and Dr. Katie Schubert, and you've been listening to Sex on the Floor podcast. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions and want to get in contact with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Dr. Molly Hart and at Dr. Katie Schubert, on Facebook at Pelvic Balance PT and at Dr. Katie Schubert. And for more information about us on our websites, you can find us at pelvicbalancept.com and at drkatieschubert.com.